Alright, just enough time for a quick video. We're on page 13. Gotta apologize for yesterday's video. I kind of looked over it a little bit this afternoon. I realized the screen is almost totally washed out because I had the overhead lights on. Anyways, I did the roughs, and you can see it's in a really rough stage. I kind of worked them over a little bit more and added my text. I always do my lettering at the rough stage. I know not everybody does that. Some people don't even think about lettering because they're just doing the penciling. But I really recommend it because you're going to end up resizing things, and it matters a lot to the way the reader is going to approach the panel. So I highly recommend lettering at the rough stage, or at least planning it out. Alright, anyways, all that said, we're going to go ahead and reduce the opacity a little bit more, maybe about to there. Add in a ink layer. And let's see what we can do. Make sure I've got the right brush. There it is. I'm not 100% happy about my my lyrics, my my word balloons here. It's because there's a lot going on, but there has to be some certain amount of explanation, like why is this happening now, and what's happening, and what are the stakes. So here's the situation, is that just as Corbeau is escaping, he happens to meet up with Aura, who's been fighting in the lab in the same hangar where the air sub is, and Cersei, the main scientist for the Ape Legion. He's kind of like the leader of the Ape Legion. Is going to he's going to activate the portal and send a legion of war robots. He really had this idea that he could save himself a lot of trouble by attacking earlier than the 1930s, because they didn't have modern tanks and things to fight his war robots. And they'd have better built up infrastructure because he plans on taking all that stuff over. Well, anyways, I want to say that without explicitly explaining it. I don't think she should look so smiley. I want her to look more concerned. Well, let's take a look at her. She's looking good. I left out a step, and I'm going to have to go back and do that step right now. And that step is the panel borders. We're going to go ahead and do those. Always a good idea to do your panel borders first. So let's go ahead and get those in as well. And for the same reason as a lot of things. I think one thing I can definitively say that I learned in the very last class that I took was about filling out the panel more. And it ended up causing me to resize this panel, and this panel. To bring this back to the Moon Knight exercise, you know, I just kind of I'm drawing it by feel at this point. I just, oh, this feels like this, right? So I just, you know, draw what I think the panel should look like. And I don't have enough experience yet to feel it exactly. But there's no, you know, there's no guideline. There's no guide that's going to tell you, oh no, you got to make this figure's got to be big and this one's got to be small. We got to do it like this or whatever else. In fact, this is might be even considered a questionable decision here. But I had put a Moon Knight figure in the foreground of the, and once again it's a battle scene. All the battle scenes are some of the toughest. And when Gavin sent my critique back, you know, one of the things he said was, he just circled it, just said make this part bigger. And as soon as I did it, I realized that's exactly right. It should have been bigger. The problem was, for me, it just wasn't obvious. I didn't know. And that's why I take narrative art and sequential art over and over again. At least a couple of times a year. At least once a year. I'll take it twice a year. I'll take narrative art and inking. I would take twice a year if I could. Because those skills are going to stay with you for life. You know, makes you grow as a person. All right, doing an open panel down here at the bottom, but it's an open panel, but it's not a it's not meant to be a vignette back panel kind of splashy thing. It's just, this is just pure reaction here. So we're just going borderless. All right, back to not the two, to the ink, to the ink. I'm not going to say my female figures are that great, but you should have seen what they looked like before. They were terrible. And I think they're okay now. At least they're okay for what I'm trying to accomplish. Okay, she says, and this is another example of me moving things around. I'll be close behind if they're bringing disruptors. Okay. Perfect example. Speech bubble. We're going to see the jumping figure. He's jumping onto the air sub back here. And she says, I'll be close behind. She's not immune to the disruptors. That's why most of the weapons that they have don't really affect her. But a disruptor would knock her out. Alright. Here's a side view of the air sub. Wondering about those curves. Okay. And we're going to show tiny figure of Corbeau jumping over there. He says, I'm going. I wonder if there's a funny French idiom I could use. Or if his head's too big. I think he's okay. When I first started drawing him, a big part of Corbeau's costume was this scarf, an aviator scarf. But I figured it was getting in the way, so I switched it out for this turtleneck collar that he's got. And the bomber jacket. I'm wondering if my line weight's too thin. So when we zoom out, let's take the thing over there. This is about let me get a comic book for comparison purposes. Too big. All right, we're going to make sure that so it's going to be that size. That might be too small. So in order to do this, I'm going to have to do a black background. In order to make him sort of pop out a little bit more. Or probably thicken out his line weights a little bit. I'm already using a distressed brush, so if your line weights are too thin, all you get is the distress. You don't get the actual, good effect of the brush there. Alright, so let's do that. There's times when I don't want the distressed part, like the little holes. Sometimes they're interesting. They're not always interesting though. So they're in this dark-ish. I don't know if it's dark-ish sub-hanger. Submarine bay. So we can do an overhead light. And then it'll let us do some drop shadows on his clothing. Let me get this one. Alright, it's a little bit better, Okay. When I look at the size, it's not the worst. I don't hate it. He's a little small. We can make it better by blacking out the background. Blacking out most of the background. And the way I would do that is, let's do it on another layer just in case we decide to reverse our decision. Here we go. I'm just going to sweep. I'm just going to do one swoop. Like that. Maybe a little bit better. Cutting right through the middle. Probably should have thickened up before I did it. I know I'm covering up some of her the lines on her fiery glow. She's not really fire, it's like an energy form. Alright, boom. And yes, it did cover him up a little bit. That's okay though. Now let's go in and tighten it up a little bit. Okay, then we're going to take this layer, drop the opacity, and get out our strategic eraser. We're going to erase around him in sort of a little halo effect. Oh. We might even do a like some eraser cross-hatching. All right, here we go. Boom. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now when we leave it over there, we've got plenty of contrast. This character totally pops, that's fine. We could even put in maybe a back wall. And we're going to imply some perspective without actually drawing it in the bricks. Now, this all works, or it seemingly works. I've somehow gotten rid of both of their lines, both of their dialogue bubbles, so we're gonna have to bring those back with the speech bubbles, but we can easily do that. The air sub is floating in the water, so we want to make sure that everybody knows there's water here. Well, let's go ahead and rename this to Bubbles. Alright, well, that's fine. Bubbles. Same deal, we're gonna reduce the opacity. And let's do the bubbles. Switch back to the technical pen. In this case, now normally I would like to use the top of the panel, but because he's in action and we want there to be some movement in the panel of the eye from here, 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 like this, we can start a little lower. I mean, we could do it at the top if we wanted to. I'm not sure if how much of a difference it would make. Might be no difference whatsoever. Okay. Same one here. Look, oh look, I've done a. Let's get rid of these lines since they're not helping us anymore. Get back to the bubbles. So for these, I think we are a great candidate for using those all the way up to the top like this. And then you're just kind of gauging the top of the panel, like how much air you're going to put in the bubble. You want it to be equal. Right, just like that. And then make it clear that she's the one talking. And I have one final note actually after this. Hang on. My final note is let's emphasize some words here. I'm going, we can leave it as it is. I'll be close behind if they're bringing disruptors. We're gonna have that be the word we bold. Drop back down to the ink layer. There it is. And let's just clean it up a little bit. Boom. There's a chance I could shade it a little bit under her chin. Oops, what's going on there? Right there. Okay, good. And there's our panel. All right. So please like, follow, and subscribe. There'll be more later. We're going to get into all these other panels. Let's take a look at this one. And this one, he's dropping down into the hatch on the top of the air sub. Then he's going to be, we're going to do a hand done sound effect. Air sub engines on, arm the forward ordnance, and it's going to be like a ping and then vroom. And then we'll have the rest of it. All right. Talk to you later.